A man can be a star of the first magnitude in gifts, willpower, and endurance, and so well balanced that he turns with the system to which he belongs without any friction or waste of energy. Another man may have the same great gifts, or even finer ones, but the axis does not pass precisely through the center, and he squanders half his strength in eccentric movements which weaken him and disturb his surroundings. If in certain American Indian tribes young men bury themselves in pits up to the neck on lonely hills in the desert, it is to learn patience, concentration, and the ability to stay motionless when necessary, however uncomfortable it may be. There's nothing mysterious about the process. A hunter who was fidgety or has to scratch himself when bitten by flies is unlikely to trap much in the way of game. Survival lies in the ability to control one's body and one's mind. Our world is not so very different, noisy and complex as it seems, but we are less fortunate than the Indians. We are educated at considerable expense and effort, but no wise teacher prepares us for the world we will face as adults. If we are lucky, we learn how to do a job. But for most people, the price of survival is surrender. There is a place for almost everyone in the world, but usually on other people's terms rather than our own. Some of us learn how to succeed and may even become rich and famous. Few learn how to use the world instead of being used by it. Those who grew up on the streets learn how to rely on themselves, but pay a high price for the knowledge. The street teaches hard lessons. For most, the idea that we are personally responsible for our own lives comes late, if at all. Our system of education teaches us to put our faith in something else: a corporation, a marriage, a trade, a profession, a religion, politics, something. One might almost say anything which offers us a set of rules which we can obey. Something. One might almost say anything which offers us a set of rules we can obey and rewards us for obedience to them. It's safer to be a domestic animal than a wild one. By the time we reach middle age, the notion that we have any existence apart from what we do, the people we're married to, our children, our colleagues, our associates, is hard to accept. The most we can do is to change our attachments with a new marriage, a new job, or more daringly, a new profession. We have been submerged in the community and spend most of our lives satisfying its needs. Life presents choices and demands courage. We have to learn not to complain or blame other people or waste time fighting things that are inevitable. No self-pity, skill, courage, and power. There are rules. They are the same for everybody. This terrace is not so different from a jungle clearing. The rules of power do not change because one is on the subway or in Central Park or in an office without windows where everything is made of plastic. The first rule is simple. Act impeccably. Perform every act as if it were the only thing in the world that mattered. It's an old Zen principle. You put your whole soul and being and life into the act you're performing. In Zen archery, your entire being wheels the arrow into the bullseye with an invisible force. It's not a question of winning or even caring. It's making the everyday acts we all perform important to ourselves. No matter how small the task, we have to teach ourselves that it matters. If we're going to intervene in a meeting, we must do so at the right moment, prepare for what we want to say, speak up at the critical point when our intervention will be heard and listened to, make sure that attention is paid. Otherwise, it's best to remain silent. It is better to do nothing than to do something badly. The second rule, never reveal all of yourself to other people. Hold something back in reserve so that people are never quite sure if they really know you. It's not that anybody seeking power should be secretive. Secrecy isn't the trick at all. It's more of a question of remaining slightly mysterious, as if one were always capable of doing something surprising or unexpected. Most people are so predictable and reveal so much of themselves that a person who isn't and who doesn't automatically acquires a kind of power. For this reason, it is important to give up the self-indulgent habit of talking about oneself, and the power person listens instead, and when he does talk about himself, it's in order to change the subject of conversation. Once we know everything about a person, we have squeezed him dry like a juiced orange. He is no longer of any use or interest to us. We can throw him away. Third rule, learn to use time. Think of it as a friend, not an enemy. Don't waste it going after things you don't want. Using time, of course, but how seldom we do. Time uses us. We are merely its servants. We fight it as if we were the enemy, trying to force 2 hours of work into 45 minutes if we're ambitious, or to stretch 45 minutes of work into 2 hours if we're not. Powerful people devote exactly as much time to what they're doing as they need or want to. They do not try to answer 2 telephones at once or begin a meeting and then end it before a conclusion has been reached because time has run out, or interrupt one conversation to begin another. They're willing to be late, to miss a telephone call, to postpone today's work to tomorrow if they have to. Events do not control them, they control events. And the fourth rule, learn to accept your mistakes. Don't be a perfectionist about everything. True enough, half the people know that we are rendered powerless by their need to be perfect, as if making one mistake would destroy them. Powerful people accept the necessity of taking risks and of being wrong. They do not waste time justifying their mistakes either, or trying to transform them into correct decisions. Nothing makes one seem more foolish or impotent than the inability to admit a mistake. The fifth rule, don't make waves. Move smoothly without disturbing things. Even in our world, half the art of power lies in arranging for things to happen the way we want them to, just as a good hunter stays in one place and draws the game towards him, instead of wearing himself out pursuing it. The skills of the hunter are not out of place in our world. They must merely be applied differently. You only need power. You have to examine this world of yours coldly and clearly as if your life depended on it, because it does. We live in a mass society, like members of a herd, and conventional wisdom teaches us that the safety lies in following the herd. But man is not a herding animal. His safety lies in his skill as a hunter, his ability to act and be alone. To understand the herd is part of the hunter's skill. To hide in the herd is a useful deception, but we cannot join it without sacrificing our essential nature. The more mechanical and complicated our world is, the more we need the simplicity of power to guide us and protect us. It's the one gift that allows us to remain human in an inhumane world. For the love of power is the love of ourselves.